Global Meet. The host has placed the meeting into a listen-only mode.
I think if people use it, you will probably see that when you print it with a light black, the granularity for perceived grain or noise is reduced. So most likely when you print the images, you would like to use the light black as one of the default option rather than a full color. It would some of the comment that we have heard is that once you add a light black, it has appearance of silver haloid type of appearance. And then the next we'll talk about the workflow consideration, how do we use it, and after that we'll talk about the screening, obviously. So for the current NextPress, there we have 6 screening. This designed for different reasons. For the light black, we do have one default suggestion that we will recommend people to use. In the color mode, obviously, there are 2 modes. It's a light black photo and light black spot. We'll talk about what they are and what does it do. And we will talk about, and the last subject is a substrate profile that I believe everybody should be familiar with, and just go through this. If people have questions, then we can talk about it at the end of the open Q&A. So the light black, it was introduced in 2011, and so it has been in the system of SX 2700, 3300, 3900, and ZX, and but the most recent Xfinity, all the machines can install the light black and use that in a fixed color. So the required system is 12 and 12.0 and above. That's pretty dated. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people should be updated up to the most recent 18.0. The basic operational principle has not changed, obviously because the toner hasn't changed. So we have some changes on the device link implementation. So we talk about it in the following slides. The ship it is a standard imaging unit solution. So I think that was in so the 2016. There's no additional click charges. So initial cost, obviously you have to buy the fifth station, but other than that, it's covered in the plan. Mike, do you have anything to add on this one?
One thing that I do want to add is that you do need to be on HD ink in order to run the light black. So those of you that are running P1 inks would have to make a conversion to HD ink in order to be able to do that. But those of you that are, most of you that are on the call, I would imagine probably already have the light black station in your shop, which we'll be curious to find out whether or not that is the case. I think some of you probably are using it, and some of you are using it a little bit, and some of you may be using it all the time. Our goal partly is to try to encourage you to see the benefits of using it whenever you're not using another fifth station. And since if you're using light black photo, you do not need to do anything other than turn it on. There are a few things we could talk about that you could turn on or off that will help improve or change the overall look, but for the most part, you really don't need a lot of front end or any front end intervention. Go ahead, CK.
Oh, great, that's a good point. It is the HD ink, which is the 5.5 micron toner rather than the regular 8 micron toner. So the quality will be higher because of the smaller toner size, which is another added benefit. Okay, so the next slide is how does it work? So this size doesn't actually say much except the proprietary algorithm. Since I would probably, if you're interested, I can get into a bit more detail. Basically, is that the reason why light black works in terms of reducing the noise is no different than if you look at, people always said that when you look at the yellow, you don't see anything. That's because in the high frequency, in the human visual system, high frequency signal, the way people would perceive high frequency noise is through the the contrast or luminance, rather than chroma. When you look at a color itself, it's a very, very low, human visual system is very insensitive to that. So that would mean that, for example, the yellow, which has a very small differences between the paper and the full coverage yellow in terms of the luminance, that's why you can't see much of a noise in yellow. The same thing goes to light black. Light black, the pigment loading is significantly less than the regular black. Its contrast between the paper and the full coverage light black is only 40 to 50% of the full black. Just by looking at this effect, we can easily see that by using the toner, it effectively cut down the noise level by half. But if you think about it, the highest level of noise for the printing system or EP or inkjet printing system is about 50 to 70% coverage. That's when you see the worst case scenario. So that would mean that the light black is able to cut down the grain by a good 60 to 70% range, depends. So obviously, if the light black IC is getting old, the effectiveness will drop a little, but that's how it is used. And also on top of it, being the light black, being the neutral, allow us to incorporate a high black replacement strategy in the device sync approach that we will talk about in the following slides. That has a benefit that to stabilize the neutral, and also it because you will use less of the light cyan, magenta, yellow, by replacing that with the higher coverage light black, which in essence, if you go the imaging, if you go over 20 or 30%, the halftone become more stable. So in a way, it will be more resistant to streaking or some of the local grain or model issue. So by all this benefit, this is how the light black improves the image quality. So this is a very short explanation why light black works. And so we will talk about the how we implement it is through the device sync, and we can talk about it afterwards. Is that we want the user to be able to use it without some interference by building your own profile. Through the device sync, we can take care of all the color replacement strategy of how the color is replaced, and so that the user can use it directly without just simply change the setting, and the machine will do that for you. This is one example of the comparison between the black and light CMYK 4-color print and the light black 5-color print. Obviously, you can see the differences, especially on the black text, that the background is no longer half-toned when you look at the light black sample, but on the CMYK sample, you see a half-tone. So it has two advantages. So on one advantage is if you look at the light black, the black content, you can see some of the half-tone jaggedness along the text border. It's not really because of the jaggedness on the 100% black text. Is the interaction between the black text and the black screen at the border. It's very difficult to avoid that problem. NextPress does have a certain have a different approach to try to smooth it out, but at below 50%, that operation is no longer effective. That's why on the left-hand side you see that the worst-case scenario where the font you can see some of the jaggedness. That's because of the half-tone problem. But if you print with a light black, both are images with 100% coverage. So as a result, that you do not see that the jaggedness appear on the edge of the text, and it will make the image quality a lot better. And then the same thing go with the sort of a dark, the red color, because it does have a black content in it, so it does have a black screen inside with the magenta screen. So the light black also helps out in that regard, because inside the text area, the halftone of the light black is gone up quite significantly, that the screen information is diminished to the point that it's hard to see. All right. So when to use light black? Obviously you can use whenever you want. We make it very easy. But one thing is that if you're interested, if main concern is image quality, you want to, for example, you print some of the photo applications, you want to have the flyer or some of the photo-rich applications, you want the machine to be higher quality in terms of lower streak or grain for a particular customer. This is when you want to use this, the light black scenario. And also you want the same halo effect. The halo effect is what we talked about on the previous slide, that sometimes you appear, if the process adjustment is not 100%, sometimes you see a halo artifact along around the text border. That by using a light black, you will be able to minimize it. Of course, we do have the software fix for the halo effect, but every time there's a toner as a chemical operation is usually more stable. So they will also have, so light black will be helpful in terms of reducing the halo artifact. It will also reduce the total ink consumption, because light black uses the very aggressive black replacement to stabilize neutral and to take the full advantage of the light black. And as a result, the CMY coverage is reduced significantly. And the light black coverage reduces quickly after a certain 70% range, depends on the ink optimization setting that you choose. So they will, by choosing a more aggressive ink optimization setting, you will be able to reduce even more in terms of the ink consumption. And another, we talked about this second benefit is the file preparation. There's no additional preparation is needed. You basically go to the job ticket, you select the light black photo, and then you will be able to render that for you without any intervention. The way we do that is through the device sync. You can select any of the color workflow. You can manage CMYK, you can manage RGB, or any color that you want according to the substrate, and according to the substrate profile as well as the input profile. Once you manage that and manage it as if it's a full color, and then the NextPress DFE will take that full color and then basically based on a predefined device sync, basically determine how to replace the light black at a different color CMYK combination will replace and then print with the appropriate light black. So it's different, in a way it's different from some of the traditional inkjet approach. The inkjet approach oftentimes is that you basically get a black and then you split the black into black and light black, and that's it. There's no interaction between the other colors to the light black. You manage the full color and then split the black to light black at the last stage. Our approach is different because we want to take the full advantage of the light black. So which means that if you have a neutral color, slight neutral, we'll decide. Basically, it's actually a benefit for everybody to use the light black rather than using a three-color neutral. So not only the black is replaced, and the neutral component is also replaced, and so this is how the light black is designed. Mike, you want to add anything?
Actually, yes, I do. couple of things that I want to bring up. The first thing is in red there where it says has finishing benefits too. A couple of things I want to talk about there. The first thing is by putting less ink consumption on the sheet, essentially the white black is applying GCR. So by using the gray component removal and getting some of that weight out of the neutrals, we can accomplish a couple of things. One is that on these neutrals where those of you that are getting a lot of jobs that are coming in Word and Publisher, and you're getting PDF files that are in RGB, and you've got light screens that when they rip to CMYK, they might be 10% cyan, 10% yellow, 5% magenta, and on any given moment, plus or minus 1 or 2% could cast that screen into being red, pinkish, or so being warm, or on the cool side, a little heavy on the cyan. So the light black will smooth that out, applying that, removing the weight of the cyan and the magenta out of that screen, still coming up with the same neutral density that you would have building that as if it was printing as a complete neutral. So you will see quality improvement, especially in light screens of black. You're really going to see an awful lot in that 25 to 35% range. You're also going to see with less ink consumption on the sheet, we can accomplish a couple of things. The first thing is that when we go to bindery, we're less prone to cracking for a couple of reasons. But one is we're putting less ink on the sheet. So since we know the ink doesn't absorb into the sheet and that it's staying on the sheet, we are going to be more inclined to moisture coming out of the sheet. The more ink that's on there, the ink is what is cracking in some cases, not the paper. So you will see some added benefit there. You'll also see some benefit with less ink on the sheet. You have a better shot at controlling your hot offset, which those of you that know what that is, which we've talked in other webinars, and I've spoken in detail about how some of the temperatures on some of your sheets may be a little on the high side, creating some hot offset, which that will cause contamination and dirty up the oil and cause some quality and some streaking issues as well. So you will find that you will see a lot of quality improvement on jobs that I think the name can be a little bit deceiving in that when you see white black photo, a lot of people think, well, it's really enhancing photos. But it's actually helping your vector art even more than it's helping your raster art. So a lot of your vector art, anything that has a screen of black in it, CK, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe as long as we're under 70%, light black will come into play. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So in that case, what you'll start to see is that if you are using this on a regular basis and you start doing, even do some comparisons. So if you are of the people that aren't using this a whole lot, if you put it in, turn it on in the hot folder, let it go, you will start to see, do some before and after, and you really will see a quality improvement, not only in the appearance of your piece, but you will start to see less contamination issues, and overall you will start to see things clean up, because that light black being exactly what it is, a light black, it's harder to see the screen angle, so that choppiness that you would normally see in the black, especially when you're close to that 45 degrees, you're going to see that edge that with the light black, it's either going to mask it, cover it up, or eliminate it. So those are some of the other added things to think about when giving it a shot and trying it.
That's a great point. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so we're going to talk about how the workflow consideration. Maybe Mike, you want to do this?
Sure. This is back to making the decision as a shop on how, if you are using the light black, now we can talk about what you're doing and what you're not doing. Those of you that aren't using a lot of dimensional or clear or any of the other fifth units, the light black really should be your mainstay. You should just no longer consider the press CMYK. You should consider it CMYK plus light black, and that light black should be in and on. you're going to find that if you keep track of it, you'll find that over the course of a very short period of time, you are going to see a difference. And that's what we want to start to see, is that quality improvement. If you are a shop where, yes, okay, well, I have, like for me, for instance, I have dimensional, I have clear, I have red, I have white, I have gold. So the white black stays in all the time unless I need to use one of those other units, and then the white black comes out, one of those units goes in, then it comes out and the white black goes back in. I do see in a lot of shops where they'll run the dimensional and then they'll just leave it in there and just run their stuff CMYK. If you really want to achieve the true benefits of what white black can do for you, you really want to get into the habit of when that other color comes out, the white black automatically goes back in and is kept in the machine. And you will start to see that it'll even help clean up that station a little bit. So you'll start, you will start to see some other added benefits to not keeping some of those other stations in there, the clear or the light black or the dimensional. Those seem to be the two most popular colors if you're not using the light black that has a tendency to be in there. If you do see that during the course of the day you want to gang your stuff based on what you've got, you certainly, based on your workflow, can decide how you want to deal with that. But what I do here is the light black stays in, and if I need to use the red black comes out, the red goes in. When I'm done with the red comes out. So obviously you want to run all your red jobs. Yes, if more come in, then you'll have to deal with that situation when it comes in on that day or the other day. You know your workflow. But really taking into account that you want to try to shoot to keep that white black in as much as you can and on, you will really start to see a benefit there. CK, I'm not sure if I missed anything there, but please let me know if there's anything you want to add.
I'm going to add a question. We've got a question. For black-only job text space, would you use light black to help decrease contamination?
You want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it?
You can answer it, yeah, Mike.
I do not think that you need to use the light black regarding black-only work. If you're talking, you shouldn't be getting a lot of contamination unless this is uncoated paper. And if it's uncoated paper and it's perfected, then we want to talk another discussion on how we can help control that contamination. I would say that you probably are better off not using the light black there, because now you're trying to get the light black to register, and it's not really going to come into play on a solid black anyway unless that black is a screen of black. So you're not really going to see a whole lot of benefit to doing that. You can have it on, but it is, in most cases, it's not going to come into play. Now, I will say this: if you have black and white artwork, whether it's black and white halftones or black and white vector art with some black screens in it and the rest is black type, then absolutely light black should be on, because you will see that it will really, really improve the look and smooth out those halftones tremendously. And it will also help with any vector art that you have screens or linear blends or anything going on within that. I hope that answered your question.
This is Lynn. I'd just add, too, that if you're going to use light black with black, that will count as a color click as opposed to a black-only click, so just be aware of that as well.
Okay. No more questions. You can go forward.
Okay. So, yeah, so Mike is correct. So it really depends on the content. If the content is mostly, like a binary printing, like a full, black text, there's no benefit, because the light black content dropped out significantly after 70% black. So, okay. So next slide, the screening. So we use the light. The current recommendation is to use the classic screen, which is about 155 LPI screen. The classic screen is the default screen. The reason why the classic screen is chosen rather than other screens, because once you add the other screen, sometimes when you, accept the super screen or their lower frequency, the classic, classic HD or optimal screen, both designed to have a high frequency screen. And the reason why the high frequency screen is that sometimes people do not want to see the halftone screen because when they see that, they see it as a lower quality. So by pushing the frequency up, you would it's more difficult for people to see. But at the same time, the higher frequency means that the halftone dot size is smaller. So numerically speaking, or if you think about how the math works, the noise is caused basically a smaller dot. It's hard to control the individual dot uniformity across the page. Basically, that will render to a streaking problem. But so if you do a classic screen, the dot is slightly bigger. But the ups is more stable. But the upside for the LightBlack is that once you use the LightBlack, it's very difficult to see the halftone structure anymore. So once you do that, that would mean that the benefit of minimizing the screen pattern, perceived screen pattern with other screen, optimal or classic HD, does not have, it no longer exists. But what it does have is the higher sensitivity toward the printing noise and the grain. So which means that, but if we go to the classic screen combined with the LightBlack, it has both advantages. It's more stable in terms of the printing noise, in terms of a less printing noise and streaking, and the halftone structure is maxed out by the LightBlack, so you actually gain both advantages. That's why the classic screen, the default classic screen is recommended when you use the LightBlack. And if everybody use if people don't build their own profile, they use the generic profile supplied in the DFE. Or when you clone a substrate, they always use they'll start out with the generic profile that we provide. There are 8 generic profiles because we do not. That's try to represent the average behavior of the machine. The classic screen is used when those profiles were generated. So which means that if you use the classic screen, the behavior, and then if you print it with the generic profile, those two will match will be closely matched than other screens. So end up you should get a better color match this way. So the other option is you basically, this is why the classic screen is used, and like I said, the LightBlack uses even if you don't use the ink optimization, you still have the device-link has inherent GCR type of color replacement built in, so you will you can get all the benefit that using the classic screen. The next slide is more like a job ticket selection. This is how to use it. You basically go in and you look at the color mode. You can select the CMYK plus LightBlack photo. In this way, then no pre-press work is needed. The mask is created for you. There's no mask actually. You manage the color as if it's a regular 4-color job. RGB you can manage any way you want. If, for example, if anybody want to build a profile so that the red become blue for some reason, for some particular reason, even if you load that process and you load that you print with the LightBlack photo, the same blue different color will show up. The workflow, the color workflow that established in a color tab will be honored through the LightBlack photo mode. So, like I said, it's the same. The benefit is you have a lower grain, lower noise, and you have textures and halo artifact minimized. Mike, you want to add anything?
No, really, I don't here. I really think that in most cases, I have not seen a need for LightBlack spot. I think that there have been very few instances where turning the light black on has produced an undesired effect. It has been so rare that, yes, are there possibly a few jobs where the light black may actually not help the job? Yes. But in most cases where the light black comes into play, you are going to find that it is going to help much more than it isn't going to help. So, you know, I kind of say it helps 95% of all jobs and doesn't hurt the other 5. Well, that really does depend on your workflow and what you're running. But in all the shops I've been into and the work that I've seen and what I've seen in most of the places that I've gone to, I can be honest and tell you that there will be a great improvement in your overall quality by introducing that light black into your everyday workflow. Some of you probably are already using it a good bit, but I will be anxious to hear when we're done with the presentation for some of you to chime in on what you do and don't like, or if you are or are not using it. I encourage anything that you're not happy with or that is not working the way you want to please let us know. But I really do think this is one area that I have really been pushing because I really see a huge long-term benefit to the overall quality of your printed pieces.
Okay. Great. So we go to the next slide. This is a spot. Obviously, if you click the spot, the only area where the light black will be enabled is where you mark the light black. Everything else, everywhere else, it becomes regular full color. There's nothing actually special about this mode. And the reason this one would be just like you're used to if you're using any of the other spot colors, where on the front end you're pretty much creating a layer and you're using the proper naming convention, and it'll only be introduced in the areas that you specifically want it to be used. But I have found that unless this is something that you feel has to be used, this is an added element on the front end that I don't think is necessary, since I believe that the light black photo does such a good job. Yes. Well, yeah, okay. So, so as far the DFE does use this for one reason. There's a linearization. It has to use this path.
Right. Right.
Okay. So substrate profile. This is there's nothing special. The light black will use the substrate profile that attached to the substrate that's being used. So, like I said previously, generally there's a generic profile that Nexpress supplied. If nothing is built, the generic profile will be attached based on the paper type or thickness, and you know, the either glossy or matte or uncoated. So proper generic profile will be attached if nothing is done. The generic profile work was done back in 2008 when we look at actually I did work as well. I did that work as well. So we look at all the substrate we have qualified back then is about 500 to 600 profiles. So if you look at it, because of the toner EP system, it's actually a lot less dependent on the substrate. What we found is that it's actually very, you could safely basically cluster them into 8 different clusters depending on the paper type, and still reproduce a reasonable color matching without sacrificing, unless you want to do the substrate specific profile, the accuracy is fairly good. So obviously if any customer want to build their own profile, you can do that as well. The light black will honor whatever profile that you choose, and you will honor the input profile that you select. Because you look at the job ticket, your CMYK, you can select any of the standard or ISO standard substrate profile, and it will try to match the color as best as it can. So I guess this is the end of our presentation. Thanks, Mike. It's a great input, and Let's open up for questions.
Yep, I have one typed question, so I'm going to share that with you guys, and then after that we will open up the lines. We've always had an issue with LightBlack going out of in-track registration on black and spot gray type. Any suggestions?
We do. Because there are a couple of things that we can talk, because the LightBlack and black is the first and the fifth. The process, the registration process is sometimes will move a little bit further out when you are farther away. So which means that the case where the black and LightBlack being the first and the fifth is the worst case scenario. I believe the new DFE does have the capability of move the LightBlack to the second, and that would, I think, I'm not so sure if we already released that.
We have not released that yet, CK.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna step in and say a few things about what you're saying. Yes, the black is in IU1, LightBlack is in IU5. So now we're asking the first station to register well to the fifth station. I do believe that it is totally capable of registering. There are several things that could be contributing to that registration being out in track. And what I try to work with operators is you really do need to, if LightBlack is going to be part of your regular workflow, you do need to make sure that your SIC is up to date. Really, I believe that on your most common stocks, you really need to be redoing the substrate in-track calibration at least every 30 days. You also need to be running basic in-track calibration as part of your daily maintenance or your shift maintenance. So when you do your shift maintenance, you should be doing APS and basic in-track calibration. On top of that, the other thing that I will say that can be a contributing factor is it's very important when you change your web that you're getting the drive roller very clean. And I've seen a lot of shops where that drive roller is being either cleaned with chemicals or it's not being cleaned as aggressively as it should be. You really want to make sure that that drive roller is clean. Now, I am one of the guys that really believes that distilled water and a lint-free cloth and elbow grease will get that grit off of the drive roller and it will get that slickness off. The one way to know that you've really gotten that drive roller clean is that when you go to put a new web on, if it really squeaks and gives you a hard time going on, then you really got it clean. If it's sliding on really easy, then you probably didn't get it as clean as you should. If that drive roller is not really clean, it will cause the web to slip, and that will affect your in-track registration. And it's probably affecting it in other areas as well. It's just that the LightBlack is really noticeable because when it has to register to the black, it will give it a shadow effect that really is almost unacceptable. So something that I would definitely try. I'm not saying that you got to go crazy with the substrate in-track calibration, but you know, if you start to see that you're running a job and you are having in-track registration issues, and you are in the yellow with that substrate, and you also have to look at the thickness of the substrate. So you're more inclined, as the GSM goes up on those sheets, you're more inclined to have a problem than on the lighter sheets. So you want to even be more aggressive with making sure that your in-track calibration is done. And you really want to get into the habit of running BIC every shift. Now, you may already be doing that. You know, you may say, chime back in and say, everything you're saying I've already done. My next question would then be, what software are you running? Because there are a couple of things that depending on the software that we can look at. Now, I'm going to say one other thing, but please, Len or anyone else that wants to CK, chime in if you think what I'm saying is incorrect. But I do believe that if you go into policies and you turn off enable line thinning, that will also improve your registration of black to LightBlack.
Okay. It's all good recommendation.
Does anybody there have a comment on me telling them to turn off enable line thinning?
No.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
Len says that's an expert opinion from Mike Granata, so that's a good thing. He was like, take a note. So I'm going to open up the lines now so that people can ask questions, but feel free to continue to type them if you're comfortable. But this will be our Q&A session of the agenda today since we finished the content. If you're not speaking, I will just ask all of our other guests to *6, put your phones on mute, because that will help us with any background noise that we may have. And again, as I open the phones, it gets a little loud and noisy, so thank everybody for attending. Thanks CK and Mike for presenting, and we will share out the recorded session along with the PowerPoint of what we're showing here. I'll go ahead and open up that line so you guys can ask your questions.
All guests have been unmuted.
Okay, lines are open. Feel free to fire away, or again, you can continue to type your questions as well.
Hello, this is Ryan from Ace Graphics.
Hey, Ryan.
I was the one with the light black question. And basically everything I am doing is what like Mike had said, but for some reason it just keeps jumping out.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you're doing all those things and having an issue, what we may want to do, Ryan, is we may want to get an FE in there and have them take a look at it, because I am going to tell you that I do believe that registration, yes, are there some instances where we start getting down to really tiny type, or we're talking about knockout type, knocking out of a rich black, and we start getting down to like 5-6 point, on a 120-pound cover. Yes, it can struggle a little bit. But in general, on most jobs, especially where you're talking about type that's 9 point or greater, you shouldn't be having that problem. So it may be something we want to, have somebody take a look at and see if. Do you mind me asking what version of software you're on?
We were on 16 and we've upgraded to 17 recently.
And you didn't notice any difference when you made that upgrade from 16 to 17?
Not at all, and it actually affects all of our cover stocks, even down to like 80-pound cover it happens. I mean, I've had techs out here in the past, they'll adjust something, but then like a day later it just goes off again, and I'm talking within like 20 sheets it goes off. But all my other colors are perfect.
Okay, okay, all right. So maybe we want to pursue this, even though they've taken a look at it. Maybe we want to just see what we can do for you. I think you have a valid concern, and I would really like to see if we can find a way to get that corrected so that you can be comfortable using it on a regular basis.
Okay.
And would encourage folks again to speak up. I do have one more question. When using light black in high quality, notice dusting more so than the clear unit. Build up under the blanket cylinder cleaner.
Okay, I can answer part of this as well. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to encourage, and I have been encouraging, is I think that at dusting that you're seeing, you're probably also seeing dusting in the magenta and most likely seeing it in the cyan as well. And this is an area where I think that the light black and the cyan and magenta, I've been encouraging people to look at how long or what they're letting their developer go to. I've really been encouraging operators to consider replacing your developer right at around 500K and not letting it go to 600 or 700K. And I think that if you get those areas clean and you change your developer a little bit more often, I'm not saying dramatically more often, but if you're letting it go to 650 now, which I see in a lot of shops, I see operators letting that developer go to 650 or 700 because they're not getting any errors or noticing any quality issues. But it is causing excessive dusting. And I think that if you look at the age of your light black developer and you dump it and you clean that area real well, clean underneath that BC cleaner, and then monitor it the next, the next time that it's in there, and kind of see when you start to see that dusting start to become an issue, you may find the perfect time for you to change that developer. But I have found that that in most cases that right around 500K, 450 to 500 is where I recommend, which is a little different than what the front end is telling you. And I don't want to contradict what other people within Kodak or what they're telling you. I'm just saying that it will improve it.
Okay, I'm going to encourage folks to feel free to, again, the lines are open, ask any questions they have, or continue to type them in if you feel more comfortable typing your question in. I'm not seeing any activity online.
Well, since we're waiting, since that was Chad that asked that question, if you're still listening, Chad, my question for you is do you know, after I've said that, about how much you know, where your developers, where you normally change them? Do you have a recommended time when what you normally let them go to?
When we're running a lot of heavy coverage stuff, so giving it about 600, like you were saying.
Okay, yeah. So do you see a lot of dusting around your magenta and cyan unit?
A little bit more in the cyan, but definitely notice under the blanket cleaner. But
okay, all right.
Daily maintenance, it's pretty much able.
You know, and I don't want to necessarily tell you to stop doing what you're doing that works. I would just say maybe you might want to give it a shot. Just in your next interval, dump that developer, clean up all that area where you see the dusting, and just one time dump it at 500 instead of letting it go to 650, and then monitor it that next go round and see if you see improvement. It can't hurt to try it once and see if you get any benefit out of it.
Another question is when we're running, before we were running a lot of the light black and we actually had it turned off, with the articulating blade flipping. Yeah. I don't know if someone else wants to chime in there instead of throwing me under the bus here, but the blade flipping may need to be addressed. That may have something to do with the articulating blade mechanism. It may need to be adjusted, and that may be something that if your FEs have already adjusted, we may need to look at that a little closer, and someone else who knows a little bit more detail about that might be able to step in, but that is something that should be able to be corrected as well. Yeah, we haven't had any issues once we started using light black, but before we were using it a lot, we noticed that was an issue.
But before the light black, you mostly is clear?
Yeah.
Oh.
Clear the CMYK.
All right. Okay, I am jotting some of this stuff down. Okay. So are you using the light black on a regular basis, or have you decreased using it because of that problem?
We've actually increased using it, and it's actually gotten rid of that blade flipping issue.
Oh, it did get rid of it. Oh, okay. All right.
Once we started using the light black in that unit, it actually got rid of that issue.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying that it was not happening with the clear and it started happening with the light black. So it's the other way around.
Right.
Okay. All right. Are you since we are talking at the moment and you are using it, I would imagine that since you are using it and you're using it more, that you are seeing a benefit from it.
Right. You guys were saying less noise and better quality coming out of the press, plus less usage of the CMYKs drain.
Great. Great. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, I'm not seeing anything online. I would encourage folks to feel free to chime in. We've got 9 minutes. Happy to run this until the 2 o'clock hour. Feel free to bring a tough question where you might stump our experts. If that's possible, though. Great. Well, I think that'll bring us to the conclusion then. I want to thank everybody for attending. We will share out the recorded session and a copy of the content that we shared today. So thank you, and everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you, CK, and thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.